Okay, so I'm about to do probably what most new bike owners dread doing. I just got myself a 2014 V Strom SC, the white on black, and I need to add a accessory outlet for my GPS and anything else down the road that I want to do. First things first is going to need to drill a hole in this, and I'm going to show you what to do. So the first thing I decided to do was actually I removed the windshield. It was four screws I had to remove, and just before it used to come up over this way a little bit, so it kind of was going to prevent me from getting the drill and the drill bit right down nice and flush. So simple little thing to do, and it's probably going to save me a lot of heartache and grief after. I was going to take this whole front dash off. Someone had mentioned do that, then you can wire right under, but everything was so much in the open, I decided, you know what, there's nothing I can hit underneath there with the drill bit, as long as I don't go down too far. It gives me about 2-3 inches of room underneath there before anything I hit. Also, I can easily wrap my wires around the wiring harness, which is tucked up nicely underneath here, and I can add some just from underneath the tire. I can reach down underneath. It's nice and open with the 2014s. So what I've seen some people do is they actually put masking tape all over their dash right here, which I'm going to do. I've decided before that though, just so I can get a perfect perspective of where I want that, I've put a little mark, and I'm actually going to drill a center mark. After that, I'm going to put my tape on, and I'll find my center mark from there, and then we'll start really going at it real. Very easy to drill through. I'm just gonna get my tape out. So you can see why I added the masking tape, because once the masking tape's on there, it's a little harder to judge exactly where the center of everything is and how it's gonna look nice. So I am just going to stick my drill bit back down through there. Create a nice little hole, that's my center. And then I grab my pencil. And this is the piece. This is my accessory, so this piece screws onto here. Now, when you're doing it, I was thinking about it that you might be afraid to drill the hole into it, and you might make a mistake or something like that. But it has close to a 1/4 inch of play, so you can make actually a 1/4 inch of error on your drilling. There's a lot of room for error, so really when you're doing it, I don't think there needs to be a lot to worry about. So I got the ring that goes around it. What I do, I'm just going to place that, and I have my center hole already, and what I'm going to do is just trace around there. Now I have the hole that I want to drill out. While I'm drilling, this hole is 1 1/8, and to find a 1 1/8 drill bit, it's possible. I can go to a hardware store and pick one up for 20 bucks, 30 bucks. But as I said, the socket has a 1/4 inch forgiveness on every side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a lot of little holes around there. It's not going to be totally perfect, but once it's installed, you're never ever going to see it again, and you're going to pat yourself on the back for doing such a good job. Now I've got the holes all drilled out. It's almost through all the way. It is thin plastic when you start realizing it's very flexible stuff too. So now I'm just going to get my X-Acto blade and I'm going to cut around that hole and those little pieces out, and then we'll have a perfect hole in there. So I started cutting. I got one more little piece to go in there. It pops out. And I got myself a nice hole. Me being me, and I have a file. I know I just mentioned that you're never going to see that again, but I take that off. It's going to be a little rough, and I know it's going to be a little rough, even though I'll never probably see it again in my life. I'm just going to do a little bit of sanding down just for peace of mind. Okay, one thing I didn't really take into account whenever I was making the circle here is that my pencil, I put it straight in and drew it around. So the pencil itself has about an eighth of an inch. So what happened, I cut that hole out exactly the same. What happened when I go to put it in, it's just a hair too small. I'm glad I have my file. I'm going to file it down right now. But when you're doing it, make sure that when you put this on, that you put your pencil, if you can see that, right along the outside edge of the piece that screws on, the little nut that screws onto the bottom. That way you're going to get an exact measurement. So I got a few minutes of work here to file that down. So it's not a real thick plastic, and my file is pretty good, so it'll get the job done. Just a little bit more extra work. So one thing to be sure of whenever you're installing this, and if you'll notice, not all the time, but most of the time, they're going to have a positive and a negative. You know, you got to make sure you're hooked up to the right wires. A lot of people choose to hook up straight to the battery with a fuse in between. I've actually decided, right, for the time being, I'm going to hook up to my clip that's already on there for the heated grips. It's already fused. I really don't have plans at this point to put any heated grips on my motorcycle. If I do in the future, then I may actually choose to actually put it right to the battery. It's still going to go in the same place. I like that location. Chose that after a lot of looking around. So, but when you're hooking this in, just make sure you got the ground and the power, the right ones. So what I've gotten, local hardware store, renting down and picked up the waterproof ones. Now I'm also going to shrink wrap it after, once I put these on there. And they're crimped in. I've got 18 gauge wire that I'm using. Yes, that's 18 gauge, I believe. So I'm going to crimp those into the ends there. And so one thing when I was looking into this, one thing I didn't want to do was start cutting into my power source. You know, I guess it's okay for me to drill a hole in my dash, but as far as start tampering with the power source, I didn't really want to start doing that right now. And that's one reason I decided I was going to hook up directly to the heated grips. This piece is a plug that comes right off the motorcycle. It's stock from the factory. You're going to find, let me see if I can get a good picture of it. So we're looking directly underneath, right by the right hand side, and you're going to find there's going to be two clips. One is wired, and the other, which is right next to it, and you can barely see it, is unwired. That clip that I just showed you just snaps off of that. Now that clip comes with two rubber plugs in the end. One rubber plug I've already removed, and that's for waterproofing. I went to Suzuki. Basically, you can buy this piece pre-assembled if you want to, $27. I was like, no, not too likely. What they sold me for $3 was two metal joiners, that I'm going to crimp to the end of my other wire that are going to go right down inside of that piece. Kind of hard to see. Those pieces go right down inside, and this goes over the wire. I bought, actually they gave me these. This will go over the wire, and where those two plugs came out on that side, it's going to go back in and give me a complete seal, and there'll be no tampering with any of the wires. All the wires are going to be installed just the way they would have been at the factory if the factory installed that, which Suzuki should think about installing. For a few bucks, they might make a few more customers happy. To that, I think Suzuki makes all their customers happy, but that might be an option that they can look at, because pretty much everybody has GoPro or GPS nowadays, and we all need something to plug our stuff into. So I got my wires set up. I crimped them in, and just for safety, a little bit more waterproofing, I just add a little bit of shrink wrap on it. Can't hurt. So there we go, with a little bit of small details. I've got big hands, so getting those wires in there was a little bit of an ordeal, but a little patience, and we got that hooked up, and we got those wires all set to go in there to hook up to our plug. Now, again, I'm going to try and show you this. I'm going to go from underneath and see if we can get a better view. Don't get any view whatsoever. You're going to find there's two wires. There's going to be two wires coming out of it. Now, your black and white is your negative. Your black and white is going to be your ground. So there's a few different colors. They're usually striped. Mine is, I believe it was yellow and white. It's going to be the positive. Again, it's hard to show you, but yeah, mine is yellow and white on this one. Yellow and black on this one. It's going to be my positive. So when you're plugging it in, make sure you know which one is your positive, which one is your negative. What I did before, once I got it plugged in, I determined which was the negative wire, which was the positive wire underneath there. Again, I won't be able to show you, but then I just ran the. I know this is the negative, put a piece of tape on it, just so when I'm hooking up to the accessory outlet port, I'll know which one it is. So no harm in checking. I got the negative and the positive hooked up. I got everything. Remember to put your screw bolts on the other end down there before you put this in. And I got my my Garmin GPS hooked up, and there's the green light, which means we're good to go, and no check lights. So we got it right. It's now it's just a matter of putting this in. I'm gonna have to get down underneath there a little bit, and I got a couple of some tape, and I'm just going to tape it up to some of the other wires to hide that wire down there. I won't be able to show you because I got to work on it from underneath, but that's it. It's a fairly simple job. Take your time. Satisfying getting it done, and saving yourself I don't know, $70, but I think it's more than just the fun of actually doing something yourself. And when it's done, you just flip it open. By the way, there's a lot of questions as far as what type of plugs, cigarette lighters, car lighters, buy them at the dealership. I went with the marine grade. Price-wise, they're about the same as any other ones. I like the fact that it was all stainless steel. And it's meant to be exposed to water on a more regular basis. So it didn't cost a lot more. I just had to search it out. Just didn't get the one at the dealership. Happy biking.